What's behind me is Projecto Morrinho, the Morrinho project, which has been called a social sculpture. In other words, a sculpture whose borders between art and everyday life are not clear. It's something put together by a group of artists in the Pereira da Silva neighborhood of Rio de Janeiro. As children, they were living in their neighborhood at a moment of intense conflict between drug traffickers and police. And this was an escape, a way that they could stay safe and enjoy themselves. What they developed was a role-playing game. It's a virtual reality. They used Lego avatars to depict different archetypes of Rio citizens. People soon began to notice what they were doing. They appeared on a variety of Brazilian TV shows and National Geographic. They themselves have traveled to Berlin, to London, to New York, to East Timor. This is their first installation in the United States, and it's one that we really prize, I would say most of all, in relation to the engagement between CUNY students and these young people from Rio.
I was basically part of the whole creation process. Started painting bricks from the very beginning and then assembling them and arranging them. I didn't know much about favelas. I had seen them depicted in films like City of God. I knew that they are a social phenomenon in Brazil. From working with the artists, I just learned that much has changed in their community. They were like evaluating and interpreting what was going on in their surroundings through the act of play, as they called it.
Before, I was talking to you about the film City of God, which was my only impression beforehand of favelas. According to that film, it's all violence. These kids who grew up were the same kids who came here to work with us, and they were kind of constructing these pieces to play role-playing games in them, so they could kind of escape the violence. Do you think they have kind of the cynical way of looking at things? They can't trust the police there. Obviously there's that, but there's kind of innocence behind it as well. I got to work here on the favelas. I got to build them, I got to paint them, and I got to know the people who I worked with.
I helped with the project in many different ways, from the initial stages of the actual painting of the Brazilian bricks to mixing the concrete. It's changed my awareness of favelas. Getting to meet the people who actually came from favelas, you get to see what they're actually like, and they're actually just regular people.
Favelas are often seen as sort of these dangerous or exotic zones that are outside of the city. And the best sociological work indicates that in fact they're essential parts of the city that are tied into labor markets and consumption and all sorts of politics throughout Rio. And I think that what they're doing with this is enacting that message. It's
very inspiring that in an environment that we might perceive as being a very violent space, an impoverished space, something so creative and smart and dynamic can come about.
It recognizes that favelas are places of inequality and violence and even drug dealing. It presents a much more complex picture of the community. People who live in a neighborhood where there's discrimination or poverty are not constantly simply reacting to that discrimination and poverty. It's not like you can explain everything they do through that people around the world look for joy, and it's not simply an antidote to pain. Oftentimes, this is seen as outsider art or naive art, and I think that they very much reject that designation, that this is art that is about the core of what it is to be from Rio.